Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, The Single Life, The Tell-All. Let's watch.
I'm tired. I don't want to be her anchor. I don't want to be her whatever stepping stone in life.
Vanessa, what is your take? Do you agree with Colt or
Yes.
do you agree with Debbie?
No. She's very dependent on Colt.
And how has this affected your relationship?
You want to tell her?
I moved out.
All right, interesting. So she moved out. Well, I guess we'll hear more about that. But so Vanessa, an outsider to the relationship between Colt and Debbie, says no, and said that word that I was saying earlier that neither one of them were using, which is no. The mom is very dependent on Colt. And we heard that also thing that Debbie said is like, I didn't know he hated me so much. So there's that black and white thinking. Instead of he actually loves me and he's trying to change our relationship, he's actually, and he has a voice, it's black or white. And guilt trippy, right? Of, oh, you're asserting yourself, how come you hate me? You know, that's a tool of the enmeshed parent of, if you assert yourself, I'm going to make you feel like you're selfish, like you're a terrible child, like you're disrespectful, instead of hearing you. Because the anxiety to the enmeshed parent is, if I allow you to have a voice, that could lead to me not having control, which could lead to you moving away from me, which is utterly terrifying, which we could absolutely imagine. Debbie only has Colt. You know, Debbie has that friend, but I don't think they're super close. And Debbie has only had Colt for a long time. It's possible that Debbie has only had Colt and her husband for, 50 years. Like, so imagine that. You have one person that you can talk to, one person you feel safe with, one person you feel understands you and knows you and loves you, someone you can depend on. You're going to hold on to that person, even if it's your son, and even if they're saying, please don't do that anymore.
We're separated.
I'm tired of being under her roof.
So you two are separated now. You're not living together.
She's having to live with us for 3 weeks.
Interesting. It's tragic. So Vanessa's saying, I can't live with her anymore. And it really paints, that first season with Larissa and the way they edited that, it is clear that, or not clear, but it's possible that Larissa was seeing things and had a hard time articulating it, or the show was editing it out or something. But we are seeing Vanessa, who's pretty level-headed, is saying, I just can't do it. The way that she treats him or the way she treats me or something. And maybe Larissa was picking up on that and was trying to tell everyone about that. And it really rewrites some of that history anyway. And we've seen it on camera. The way that Debbie talks, the way she treats him, the black and white thinking, the verbal abuse. So, eesh.
It's nonstop. Hey, Colt, even if our door's closed at the room. Hey, Colt, it's nonstop.
So from your point of view, Vanessa, what was the breaking point?
I suffered a miscarriage. We told Debbie about it, and she was I know that she didn't know at all that I was pregnant. We kept it from her.
Well, that's awful. So Vanessa had a miscarriage, which can be an absolutely just horrific loss that parents will go through, families will go through. I don't know how it was for Colt and Vanessa, but that's significant. And so they told Debbie about it, and it sounds like maybe Debbie didn't react well, and that was the last straw on the camel's back.
So her reaction was, I'm sorry. She gave me a hug.
She obviously has some feelings or emotions, but she can't express them to me. I don't know why.
Wait, so I'm a little confused. So Sean asks, okay, what was the last straw on the camel's back? And because Vanessa's saying, it was constant. It was like Colt, that we had the door closed, and she's always invading, and just not giving us space or him space. And I just couldn't do it anymore. And then I had a miscarriage, and I told Debbie about it, and then Debbie was nice about it. And then I moved out. So, I didn't really catch the narrative there. But at any rate, I think we understand why Vanessa moved out, generally speaking.
First of all, we're so sorry that both of you suffered that loss.
Yeah, so sorry about that.
So sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And how are you doing, Vanessa? How are you doing?
It happened. Nothing I could really do about it.
Yeah.
He took me to the emergency room in the middle of the night, and that was that.
Yeah. Oh, golly. I mean, brings a tear to my eye. It's just the worst. And the traumatic nature of it, like that. I won't go into gory details. Of course, you could imagine. It's horrific. It is traumatic. It can actually cause PTSD. It can, I mean, it's your child. It just isn't out in the world yet. It exists. That child is alive. It's there. And then one minute it's, it's just the worst. And so I feel bad for the two of them.
No, come on, baby. It's okay.
This is a real human moment in the beginning of the tell-all right now.
Do you feel that, Colt, you can maybe like lose that role a little bit of like the dependency that she has on you?
I mean, I can block my mother. She'll still find a way to fucking contact me. She will not leave. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, I could migrate to a third world country. She'll probably end up in the A.
Well, I mean, who knows if Colt is exaggerating the vibe here, but the way he's describing it is, I want to block her, but she will not respect that. She will invade my space. She will stalk me. I mean, that's essentially what he's saying. I'm guessing that's a bit of an exaggeration, but the vibe, the emotional vibe, probably isn't. The unrelenting disrespect of his boundaries and his person, it kind of sounds like that's what he's saying.
Where am I staying?
Colt, because I feel your pain, not to this extent with my own mom, but by helping, and kind of what Jesse's saying is, if you can support her more to find a man.
Shut the fuck up! Support? I'm 36 years old!
Okay.
Yeah, that's not the right thing to say, Ed. I get it, what Ed is saying. It's just like, hey, you seem to be real harsh with her. Maybe if you helped her, that would help with the transition, then you would just sort of naturally have her not depend on you because she would have other people in her life. Yeah, I mean, it's a true or a wise-ish thing to say, but it's not the right time to tell Colt this. I mean, he's not... and Ed's advice is unsolicited, one. Two, it's not really appreciating what Colt is saying. I mean, what Colt is saying in this moment, I think, is I've had a part of me for 36 years of my life, my whole entire life, that has been stamped out by her invasion emotionally. This isn't just her finding someone else. This is a lifetime of pain and agony and anger and hurt and being, invaded and harmed my whole life. This isn't just about her knocking on my door. This isn't just about me driving her to San Diego. This is about her, the constant beating me down emotionally and emotionally abusing me my whole life. That's what this is about. I think that's what's happening right now, honestly. I don't know if it's an accurate depiction of reality. We'd have to ask Debbie and other people involved, but Vanessa seems to be kind of confirming that. And to from an outsider, just to say to Colt, hey, how about you help her date? He has been. And that's not what he's saying. It's not what's coming out of Colt right now. What's coming out of Colt right now is a lifetime of pain and invasion and frustration.
My entire life has been support. Hey, Colt, do this.
Down.
Hey, Colt, I don't need to calm down, Ed.
Calm down, Polar Bear. Calm down. Okay,
Why don't
calm
you
down.
shut the
Yikes. Calm down. So there are different ways of being frustrated, right? And I think when Colt was yelling at Ed at first, I don't think he was yelling at Ed per se. I think he was like, no, you don't understand, expressing his frustration with the situation and with his mom. So Ed could say, okay, or, okay, I get it. Wow, I guess I didn't think about that. You have been supportive. You're right. I was just saying that maybe it would help, but, I don't know. So Ed could have said anything other than calm down. I don't think that's going to work. And I don't think Colt likes Ed at all anyway. So I think that a good thing to say was like, yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've had a lifetime of frustration, and it sounds like it's pretty hurtful.
Fuck up, you fake piece of shit.
Hey guys, let's chill out, man.
The thing is, he can't even fucking afford to live there. He doesn't even have a job. She doesn't have a job. I'm paying all the fucking bills.
Okay. I always like to, especially in a situation like this, learn a bit about the finances. So according to, because it's a factor, right? Because if Debbie has no money and no income, expecting her to move out on her own is a lot to ask. You know, maybe there are ways to manage it, but according to Debbie anyway, who knows how accurate it is that she's saying, you know, Vanessa doesn't have a job, but I'm paying all the bills. And what does that mean? And it doesn't really matter. I mean, for Vanessa and Colt, they just don't want to live with her anymore, which is totally fine. And particularly because she invades their space against their will. So, but it is interesting to learn. So it sounds like the mom does have an income and can pay for her own place. So why doesn't she move out?
I apologize to everyone for doing that. I apologize. You can get the hell out.
Oh, well.
No, he can, because I don't care anymore. You come here. I asked you to come here and support me. You come here and embarrass me and treat me like shit. I'm done, dude. Go.
So real dismissive, and you know, I get her feelings. It's pretty hurtful to have this happen on television, but you would hope that. But of course, why would it? We haven't seen her exhibit this kind of self-awareness before. That she would have a bit of time to calm down and be able to come on. And I'm just trying to think of what would be reasonable to expect from Debbie. He could have said, she could have come back and said, okay, son, I'm hearing that you don't like it that I bother you a lot. It hurts to hear that, but I guess I have to think about that, because I thought we had a relationship where we depended on each other, but it sounds like you're changing to be more with Vanessa, and that hurts and that sucks for me, and I feel kind of lonely, but that's not your job. You're my son. You should be able to move on with Vanessa, and that's on me. But so I'm going to have to think about this. And honestly, Cole, I don't think that I'm completely to blame here. I think that you're partially to blame, but I'm hearing you that you don't want me to bother you anymore, and or you don't want me to bother you as much. And so I hear that, and I'll try to change. We just can't imagine Debbie saying something like that, right? Not only saying, but understanding the foundation of why you would even say such a thing. For her, it's just like, you're done, get off the stage, and I hate you. And of course, this is what keeps the enmeshment going, because it's such a guilt trip. Because the thing, you know, for the Vanessas of the world, if you're involved with a cult, then you're saying to the cult, you're saying, why don't you just draw a boundary? Well, it's easier said than done, right? Because if you're a cult, then you want a relationship with your mom. You need your mom. You need your mom's love. You love your mom. And a lot of your self-esteem or identity or something is wrapped around having your mom love you and have your mom approve of you and like you. And so for Colt, it seems he's in this catch-22, because if he asserts himself, then mom says, you hate me, and rejects him. If he doesn't assert himself, then he has his mom's love, but it's invasive, and he doesn't have an identity, he doesn't have himself. And so that's the situation he's in, and neither option is good, right? It's easy from the outside to say draw a boundary. It's almost impossible to do that from the inside. In fact, when I first started out as a therapist, I would run into enmeshed families like this, and I would go, oh, I know exactly what's happening. And I would, talk with them and raise awareness. And it would take a while, but eventually I would get the Colts and the Debbies to see it, at least partially. And they'd say, oh, okay. And they would see the pattern, they would see the reasons, they would see the history that it evolved into that. And then I'd say, okay, job done. I've convinced them of what's happening. Now they just have to change it. And then it wouldn't change. And I'd say, oh, well, okay, maybe more convincing, maybe some problem solving, maybe some options about how to change the enmeshment. And I'd say, okay, job done. Because the clients would say, we see the enmeshment, we understand it, we get it, but it wouldn't change. It's so hard to change enmeshment. It is so ingrained. It's been around potentially since Colt was 0 years old, since he was a toddler. So the neurons are oriented such that it's so hard to alter that. And it's terrifying because to separate means, for some people, complete oblivion. It feels like an oblivion. It feels like completely untethered, falling into the abyss. This one person is the only foundation they have to emotional stability and love and security. And even though intellectually they understand that's not true, their body doesn't understand it. And so it's really hard to change. And sometimes what happens without therapy and without self-awareness, they switch from enmeshment to complete cutoff. And, Murray Bowen talked about this, that you stay enmeshed, but you don't talk to each other. You're enmeshed in your mind. And that can be a solution. Sometimes it's necessary if you're a Colt, but it's not ideal, obviously.
I'm sorry I embarrassed you. I don't want to embarrass you.
What do you think you're doing?
Debbie.
You want to totally destroy me? Is that what you want? You're doing that.
No, I don't.
Really doing that?
I don't want that. No one wants that.
Hey, Debbie.
So I don't know what we're seeing, but I think we're starting to see that boy in Colt emerge, where he is trying to be compliant and saying, no, Ma, I don't want to embarrass you. I'm sorry. No one wants that. I think that's what we're seeing. And so there's that. And I talk about this. I learned this a long time ago, that there are 3 phases to assertiveness and finding yourself. The first phase, the most dysfunctional, is I'm a doormat because I need to retain love and attachment. The second phase is to be very aggressively hostile with your needs and to not consider the other person. The third phase is speaking your voice while considering someone else's feelings. So we haven't seen that third phase with Colt, which is normal. I think, are now seeing phase 1, and we saw a very brief glimpse of phase 2. And it's normal to go to phase 2, and that's what when I'm talking with clients, I say, you're in phase 2, and that's kind of normal. Or your spouse is phase 2ing with you, and that's normal. That's not the end of the road. It feels hurtful. If I was talking to Debbie, I'd be like, it feels hurtful, right? That the way he's talking, the hostility. But we need to allow him to go through this phase so that he can be secure that he can speak his voice. In order to be assertive while considering someone else's feelings, you have to feel safe. You have to not be triggered. You have to be able to speak your voice knowing that things are going to go okay, relatively well. And so in order for that to happen, you have to have repeated events where you are asserting your voice and bad things don't happen. But that can only happen if you go through a phase where they're just constantly badgering, the Colts of the world are just badgering you with their needs and not considering your feelings through that process. Now, one could argue that Colt is justified in the volcanoing, but if things are going to progress forward and they're going to both get what they want, which I think is a different type of relationship with them not living together and the mom only depending on him kind of, and allowing him some flexibility, then there has to be assertiveness. There has to be like a back and forth and a compassion for the other person's point of view. But so I think we're seeing the abuse take hold, and him, even his body language is like that of a little boy.
I was just very stressed about, one, are we gonna raise them here in this house? It was just a lot of stress. So I kind of felt guilty, like maybe I did something wrong. And then, I took it out on him a lot.
Oh, interesting, which is really tragic. So Vanessa, I think, is saying that she was stressed out about the environment of the home being oppressive in a certain way or not ideal. And Vanessa's faced with this, I think, a prediction that mom's never leaving. This is just never, or even if she does leave, she's going to be constantly invading the space because that's what Debbie does. And Colt doesn't really effectively draw boundaries with it. I think I understand where Colt's coming from because he doesn't want to be rejected by his mom, but he just never draws a line because with Debbie, it's impossible to do that and have it go well. So I'm going to have this child and we're going to raise it with Debbie in the house, and that stress is going to be around. Will Debbie invade my space when it comes to my child? I want to be very protective about raising. I'm inferring a lot. Obviously, I'm speculating. I want to raise this child myself. Will Debbie and the toxicity affect my child and my parenting? So I'm stressed out. I have a miscarriage, and there's no way to know if that stress was related. So who knows? And I don't know what the doctors told Vanessa, but at least she's saying that after, which is really common, the miscarriage, she blamed herself, and she said, well, maybe it was because I didn't deal with the stress well enough, or I didn't push back on Debbie, or something along those lines. And that's just another tragedy that's often present with miscarriages. This is a self-blame. My body isn't good enough. I didn't eat right. I didn't do the right things. I did things wrong. I should have done things like that. And when you talk to physicians, they'll say, well, maybe it was a slight factor, but these things happen. A lot of miscarriages happen. And miscarriage is way more common than people know about because it's so shamed in our society. Same thing. Well, anyway, point is that it's very stigmatized, and it goes back to the old days when women who would have miscarriages would be, called barren, and they're not fit, and they're not a good wife, and they're not really worth anything, because it's like the only reason why women are on the planet is to have children for men, because that's what men want them for, that kind of thing. And so there's this old attitude of you're worthless as a woman if you have some issues there. So anyway, it's just it's heartbreaking to see. And Colt and Vanessa seem like a good couple, and to see the solution as a therapist, but to see things crumble for everyone, because there's a possible outcome here that Vanessa and Colt break up. Colt stays with Debbie. They go back to phase one, and things go back to the way things were. And wow, it seems like that's a real possibility right now, which is pretty depressing to think about.
Debbie, did you feel hurt that they didn't tell you that they were pregnant?
Of course I did.
Debbie, do you feel at any times that you are very dependent upon Colt?
Absolutely, I'm dependent on Colt. He's dependent on me at times, too.
Okay, good. I was worried she was going to get defensive, so that's a great question that Sean asked. I was hoping that Sean would ask that. And Debbie's saying, absolutely, I'm dependent on him. And he's dependent on me a lot of times, too. So there's a door there. The door is ajar a little bit. And I think Colt's like, wait, did she just admit that? So there's a beachhead there, and it's going to take some time for her to admit that she's overly dependent on him is a strong suggestion that she should not depend on him as much. To not depend on him as much as she does means she's just on her own, alone in the woods. That's terrifying for people, and that's where therapy comes in, and that's where cultivating other relationships. Now, if they were working with me, which would never happen, but if they were, I would, and I've done this before, I've looked to the Colts of the world of varying age. Sometimes the Colts of the world are 10, and sometimes the Colts of the world are 36, and sometimes they're 50 in my office. But I look to Colt, and I engineer this, and sometimes I'm really explicit about it. I say, Colt, you are now released officially from being your mom's therapist. I am now your mom's therapist. And so, Mom, when you have issues, you're going to talk with me, because that's my job, and I'm going to help you with it, and I'm going to do my best to help you. Colt, you no longer have to deal with this. So if you feel pressured, you can certainly help your mom if you want to, but if it's too much for you, you tell me, and I will help your mom. It's not a long-term solution, but it's a temporary step, and sometimes that takes 3 years to adjust to, and there's pushback from everyone involved. But that would be the model. It's not just, then that's why therapy is necessary sometimes, because you can't just push your mom away, because like I said, sometimes that just means, I mean, you can, but it's not ideal because it just creates cutoff, and then you're sad and everyone is sad.
What family is?
No, it's not.
Well, you would know, right? I guess. I don't know.
Why can't I know? I'm almost 40 years old. Why can't I have my own ideas?
You could have moved out years ago.
When?
So I don't know if I'm just reading into it, but I think there's that vibe again. So he's saying, you depend on me too much, and she's like, well, what do you know? You know, and it's just so dismissive, right? Just like essentially this attitude of, you're an idiot, you don't know anything. And I think that's that you treat me like I'm 10. It's like he keeps asserting his age, which I think is him trying to say, respect me. I know things. You can't dismiss everything that I say.
I said, we're moving out. You have a freak out. You made me feel so bad. I apologize to you because I said, Vanessa and I are moving out in 90 days. And you
because we have a fucking lease, and right then and there, I couldn't afford to get my own place.
When the lease is up, there's all, when will this?
Oh, we're gonna move out in 90 days. We got a place.
When will it happen?
Why are you doing this?
So when she's cornered and she doesn't have anything to say, I think that's when she stops being defensive, which isn't great, and starts to call his character out. Why are you doing this? Why do you hate me? It's the bastion of someone that has run out of cogent things to say. So he's saying, I gave you 3 months, you didn't move out. And she's like, well, the lease, and who knows the details there, but I suspect that she could have moved out if she wanted to. And she's just making excuses because she's terrified. And it doesn't make it okay, but it does kind of give it context.
How many times I've been there to support you?
Okay.
Do you? I don't want you involved in my life anymore. You make it miserable. You make me miserable.
I'm sorry, I do. Maybe that's true. But if that's the case, then you should really be more independent.
Move out, okay? I don't know how to get there any faster. I'm trying to get away from you.
Okay, so I believe that. I believe there's a part of Debbie that actually is trying, that she's trying to find someone. But the self-esteem and the expectations of dating and the fact that dating isn't going well is throwing a wrench in her efforts. But she's probably, because of self-esteem issues and worthlessness and expectations, not giving it more of a try, right? She's tried, but then quickly retreated back to homeostasis. But I don't know if we've ever seen a more real conversation on this show before. This is actually, they should show this conversation in graduate. Maybe I'll show this to my students, that if you want to see what an enmeshment looks like, this is a lot of data is coming forward. And sometimes the tell-alls are like that. It's like, whoa, we're learning a lot of detail about the psychology and the relationships and the schemas.
Vanessa, do you want to move back in with your husband?
Didn't sign up for a part-time husband.
Will you move back in if Debbie is not in the house?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it really rewrites history for me. Maybe for y'all knew this, but the situation with Jess, we saw some of that hostility from Debbie, and with Larissa, we didn't really see much of it. And seeing how rigid she is and how distorted Debbie is around her entitlement, if you will, to enmeshment with Colt, that any threat to that, which Larissa certainly was, how Debbie would have very likely done something to undermine that, right? That Larissa was like, no, you don't understand that, but so at least for me, I'm seeing that through a new light for sure.
I'd just like for her to be able to talk calmly. She right away starts with, she just gets mad. She yells over someone to not hear what the issue is, and then she storms off. She slams the door, and that's it.
Yeah, so we've seen that a couple times on this, and other time throughout the season, maybe a few times. Vanessa is saying there's no resolution because she defends and yells and then just storms off and slams doors, and then we go right back to the way things were. So, yeah, that seems like an accurate observation.
Is that not what you do, Debbie?
No, I don't.
All right.
Okay.
No, I don't. I hardly ever see you, Vanessa.
I know.
I never see you.
I know, but
I
with
try to
Colt,
stay out of
with
you guys'
Colt,
way. Don't.
So we could imagine that for Debbie, she is frequently operating from a very relationally traumatized place. One that is quite young and undifferentiated, unsophisticated, unaware, and just in denial about things. And that seems to be what's happening.
I just hope you guys get counseling. I mean, it's helped me tremendously. It's worth it too, because life is short.
Work on what? What are we going to work on?
I've heard that so many times. And it's like, what? I mean, even the most unaware of psychology and therapy individual would be able to answer that question, Debbie. Like, what is there to work on? What isn't there to work on? I mean, as a therapist, it just gets so frustrating because you hear people say stuff like that and you're like, huh? Like, what world do you live in that what is happening right now is not does not lend itself to therapy, at least to give it a try? I mean, it's so obviously something to be talking about with a family therapist, a relational therapist. It is right down the middle. I mean, we're talking like quarter one, term one in graduate school. They talk about what you're talking. This is like right down the middle. You talk about disengagement and enmeshment. And a lot of talk about enmeshment in family therapy circles. Like, this is just so. And then Ed says, I really hope you get therapy. And she's like, what would there be to work? What? But that's a denial, right? And because why do we have denial as a defense mechanism that Freud and others identified over 100 years ago? It's because when we have forces inside of us, psychodynamics inside of us that are conflictual, we need some solution. There needs to, and it's unconscious. It's usually not very conscious. And so there's a battle between what people are saying to me, I'm enmeshed, or there's something wrong in this family, versus I need to preserve my self-esteem. And I have so little self-esteem that it's fragile to that criticism. And so I must defend it. And so what's the solution? Well, there are a variety of solutions, all typically involving some form of denial. And one is just flat out denial. It's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Just blind to what's happening.
All right. Okay. I don't think we're going to solve this today.
No, it's not going to be decided today.
Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Wow. I mean, pretty intense. That's pretty intense. Whew. What do I hope? I hope they go to therapy. I'm terrified that Vanessa and Colt are going to be driven apart by this, and that Colt will just go back, and Debbie and Colt will just go back. Debbie will give up on dating. And I mean, what a tragedy that would be for everyone, really. I mean, at the beginning of the season, it just seemed like they're on the path. Vanessa and Colt are working out. They're getting along. They got pregnant. Everything's going well. Debbie's going to meet someone, and then everything, and now it's almost like we're even worse off than we ever have been with this family. It's pretty awful. But if they had a therapist, I'm confident it would help.
We're done. I'm done.
even when Colt does try to talk to you,
Colt doesn't try to talk
off.
to me. Colt does not try to talk to me.
He does.
No, he doesn't.
Yes, he does.
No, he doesn't.
You guilt trip him all the time.
All right, we're hearing from Vanessa that she observes that Debbie will guilt trip him all the time. That's my suspicion. It's really common. From the surface level, you'd say, oh, it's controlling. You're trying to manipulate someone. You're a malignant narcissist. And it's certainly possible, but usually, and there are a lot of signs, it's terror of being alone. It's absolute anxiety and fear of loss and being completely on your own without anyone there for you. It's sort of like if you're drowning and someone comes over you, and this is well-known phenomenon, that you'll panic and you'll grab someone, say someone knows how to swim and you don't, or you're being dragged down, you will grab someone and pull them down under, and then both people will drown, even though you're not like, okay, I'm going to die, I'm going to kill you too. You're just panicking. And so when you are alone and you feel like no one will ever love you, but someone is there, you'll grab onto whoever it is, and you won't necessarily care about their feelings because you're so desperate. And that usually is the case, and I wouldn't be surprised if that would resonate with Debbie if she were self-aware.
All the time.
You know, I guess.
Yeah, I do know because I was there. I
Yeah, you
witnessed
say
it.
so. Maybe you're right. You're right. I guess you're right. Stop putting crap in his head.
So there it is. It's all Vanessa's fault. You're getting in the way. You're putting crap in his head. Before you came along, everything was fine. And from her perspective, it might have been. But it was all based on a foundation of lies that kept Colt quiet so that he didn't voice his concerns. Or when it did happen, it was extremely brief and unbridled and would quickly submerge itself. And so it would be an easy conclusion and a very convenient conclusion that it's all Vanessa's fault.
I don't know what I did. I don't know what I did. I've done the same thing from the beginning.
I just feel very smothered because
Okay, so this is actually a good step. We're not there yet, obviously, but for Debbie to say, I don't know what I did, that's great. That means there's a question mark there. And when I hear clients say that, I'm like, great. We are out of denial and into confusion. It's better to be confused than in denial. You're saying, I don't know what happened. What happened? Okay, it's great. There's that means we can start exploring. Okay, well, let's explore. What do you mean? What do you observe? Let's start with the basics here.
you're constantly in Colt's face. If I need him, you're in his texting or at the door, even if it's closed, you're there.
So I think that's only half of it from my observation of what they're saying. The fact that the mom, Debbie, is often there, which is debatable. You know, Vanessa's saying, you're always there. I'm sure for Debbie, she's like, I'm not always there. There are plenty of times when I completely leave you alone, and I'm sure that's true as well. So it's a matter of like semantics. But so that's part of it. But really, the main part of it is the emotional pressure that Debbie puts him under. That's the problem. It's not that she's there sometimes and in their space sometimes, which is a problem, but it's the fact that Colt gets punished for pushing back, that Colt feels he can't be himself and he can't live his own life.
Hey, Colt.
I don't stand that, no.
You do?
Once-
Yes,
once in a
behind
great
the
while, I
door.
say, Colt, forgive me for being there. I won't be. From this point on, I will not be his mother, their friend, nothing.
Right. So on one hand, given her traumas that are being triggered right now, it makes sense that she would go there. She's like, screw it, I'm done with them. On the other hand, this is the tool of the enmeshed parent because they know, and they were probably modeled this growing up, by the way, that if they take this extreme view, then that will cause so much guilt and it'll suck them back in. We've seen this before with Debbie, and we can only imagine that it's happening a lot and has been for 36 years.
We're done. I don't know what the hell's going on with Colt. I've been trying to talk to him for a couple of weeks. He won't talk about anything.
All right, so that's interesting. According to Debbie, she's been trying to talk and he hasn't said anything. I'm guessing because he's sad that Vanessa had a miscarriage and moved out, but also that he doesn't know what to say. And so she's like, I've been trying to talk to him for weeks and he hasn't said anything. And that's a legit complaint, right? It's like, wait, you waited until we're on the tell-all? You had ample opportunity to say something. That makes sense. But when you emotionally pressure someone and give them a very clear impression that if you don't have support around, I'm going to dominate the conversation, or you're going to melt down and lose your stuff and then regret it and then turtle again. So I understand what she's saying, but she should probably slow down and go, okay, what did he say? What's Vanessa saying? And, because Debbie doesn't hate Vanessa, Debbie really likes Vanessa, and Debbie obviously loves her son, and so she should stop. But again, it's the threat that scares her.
And maybe I'm a senile old bitch and don't know what I'm talking about.
No, you just don't want to let him go. That's
I
it.
would love to let him go.
I'm just trying to understand.
What are you trying to understand?
What is the real issue? You're always mad at him for something. You
I'm
guilt trip
never
him.
mad at him. This is you putting crap in his head.
What am I putting?
Yeah, so they're beyond the threshold at this point. They're just going to yell at each other and not listen. And Debbie hasn't shown that she can listen, that she feels safe enough to listen.
In his head. This is the truth.
My God.
You guilt trip
Vanessa,
him all
what
the
have
time.
you done to him? You fucked him up.
You're right. I fucked him up. I fucked you up.
I don't know what you want me to tell you, Vanessa. I don't know.
I fucked him up.
You want to know why he
apparently.
lived with me for so long? I don't know. It just happened that way.
Why do you guilt trip him so much about him moving out?
I don't want to talk about it anymore here. I have a
So it's a great question, but it's too quick. There's no way that Debbie at this point would be able to answer that question. And she's starting to pull out of the severe dysfunction by saying, I don't know what happened. That's a step in the right direction. Instead of I'm in denial and there's something wrong with the two of you, it's what is happening right now. So but she's vacillating between those two places. To ask her why you guilt trip requires her to understand way too many things, and it's too quick. So, all right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.